When the lawyer finished reading the succession clause in the partnership agreement, Adrian's face went white. He'd been sitting there with that smug expression, confident he was about to buy my son's half of their company for pennies on the dollar. Instead, he heard the words that would cost him everything. In the event of a partner's death occurring within 90 days of an executed acquisition agreement, all shares transfer to designated beneficiaries at full acquisition price. The room fell silent. Adrian stood up so fast his chair scraped against the hardwood floor. That's not. Michael never told me about that clause. The lawyer, Patricia Chen, didn't even look up from the document. It was added 3 years ago when you both signed the updated partnership agreement. Mr. Westwood, your signature is right here. I watched Adrian's hands clench into fists. For just a moment, I saw something flash across his face. Not surprise, not grief for his dead partner, fear. And that's when I knew my son hadn't fallen from that balcony by accident. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me start from the beginning, from the phone call that shattered my world on a Tuesday morning in October. I was in my workshop behind the house in Qualicum Beach, restoring an old cedar canoe I'd picked up at an estate sale, when my phone rang. I almost didn't answer. After 32 years with the RCMP, most of them as a detective, I'd learned to value my retirement and the peace it brought. I'd moved to Vancouver Island specifically to get away from constantly ringing phones and emergencies. But it was Michael's number, so I wiped the varnish from my hands and picked up. Except it wasn't Michael. Mr. Harrison? Robert Harrison? A woman's voice, professional but strained. Speaking. This is Constable Martinez with the Vancouver Police Department. I'm calling about your son, Michael Harrison. My chest tightened. What's happened? I'm very sorry to inform you that your son was involved in an incident at his workplace this morning. He fell from the balcony of his office. Mr. Harrison, he didn't survive. The workshop seemed to tilt. I gripped the edge of my workbench. What do you mean he fell? Michael was terrified of heights. He wouldn't go near a balcony. I understand this is difficult. The Major Crime Unit is investigating. We'll need you to come to Vancouver to identify. I'll be on the next ferry. I made the crossing from Nanaimo to Horseshoe Bay in a daze. Michael, my boy. He was 38 years old, brilliant, successful, and now dead. The constable had said he fell from his office balcony on the 20th floor of their building downtown. But that didn't make sense. Michael had been afraid of heights since he was a child, ever since he'd fallen from a treehouse and broken his arm. He'd specifically chosen a ground-floor apartment because of it. Why would he be on a balcony? By the time I reached Vancouver General Hospital, evening was falling. The identification was brief and brutal. Yes, that was my son. Yes, I'd contact the funeral home. Yes, I understood the police would be in touch. Outside the hospital, I stood in the rain and called my ex-wife, Catherine, in Toronto. She'd remarried years ago, moved east for her new husband's job. The phone rang 6 times before she answered. Catherine, it's Robert. Robert, what's wrong? I told her. She made a sound I'd never heard from her before, somewhere between a gasp and a moan. We talked for 20 minutes, her sobbing, me trying to hold it together, both of us lost in a shared grief that transcended our divorce. I'll fly out tomorrow, she finally said. For the funeral. There's something else, I said, watching the rain stream down the hospital windows. The police said he fell. But Catherine, you know Michael. When's the last time you saw him anywhere near a balcony? There was a long pause. What are you saying, Robert? I'm saying I don't believe it was an accident. The next morning, I drove to Michael's office building in downtown Vancouver. The headquarters of Quantum Solutions occupied the entire 20th floor of a glass tower on West Georgia Street. I'd only been there twice before, once when they'd first leased the space 5 years ago, and again last Christmas when Michael had hosted a holiday party. The building security wouldn't let me up without an appointment. I was about to show my old RCMP badge, then remembered I didn't have that authority anymore. Instead, I called Adrian Westwood directly. Mr. Harrison. His voice was flat when he answered. I'm so sorry about Michael. I'm downstairs. I need to see where it happened. I don't think that's a good idea. The police have it cordoned off, and, Adrian, I was a detective for 32 years. I'm not asking permission. I'm telling you, I'm coming up. He met me at the elevator. Adrian was 35, tall and lean, with the kind of casual, expensive clothing that tech entrepreneurs favored: dark jeans, a gray cashmere sweater, white sneakers that probably cost more than my monthly pension. His eyes were red, but something about his grief seemed performative, like he was showing me what he thought I wanted to see. The police finished their investigation yesterday, he said, as we walked down the corridor. They ruled it accidental death. Michael was working late, stepped out onto the balcony for air, and he trailed off, making a helpless gesture. Michael didn't work late. He was always home by 6, and he hated heights. People do unexpected things when they're stressed. Was he stressed? Adrian looked away. We all are. Running a company is intense, especially with the acquisition talks. What acquisition? We'd reached a corner office, Michael's office, I realized. Yellow police tape still crossed the doorway, but someone had already removed it from the balcony door. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows, I could see the narrow balcony that ran along the corner of the building. We were in final negotiations with TechCore, Adrian said. They wanted to acquire Quantum Solutions. The deal would have closed next month. For how much? $95 million. I turned to stare at him. $95 million? Michael and I would have split it after the investors and employees got their shares. We were both looking at about $45 million each. He walked to the window, gazing out at the Vancouver skyline. Now I don't know what happens. Something in his tone made my detective instincts flare. What do you mean you don't know? The partnership agreement has provisions for this kind of situation, Michael's shares. They have to be dealt with somehow. He turned back to me, and for just a second, I saw calculation in his eyes. I assumed they'd come to me, as his partner. We had a right of first refusal clause. You haven't read the agreement recently, have you? Not in a few years. Why? I didn't answer. Instead, I stepped out onto the balcony. The wind hit me immediately, cold and sharp with the smell of the ocean. The railing was waist-high, solid glass panels set in steel frames. I'm 6 feet tall, and it came up to my waist. Michael had been 5 to 10. He would have had to climb or be pushed to go over it. Tell me exactly what happened that morning, I said. Adrian shifted uncomfortably. I wasn't here. I had a breakfast meeting with our investors downtown. When I got back around 10:30, the police were already here. The building maintenance guy found him around 8. He'd been there since sometime the night before, they think. What was Michael doing here at night? I don't know. Maybe catching up on work? I looked at the building's exterior. Security cameras were mounted at intervals, including one pointing at this corner of the building. Those cameras work? The police already checked the footage. What did it show? Michael came in around 7 yesterday evening. He was alone. The camera in the hallway shows him going into his office. That's the last footage of him alive. What about the balcony? There must be cameras. Adrian shook his head. The exterior cameras don't cover the balconies. Privacy concerns. How convenient, I thought, but didn't say. Did anyone else enter the building that night? Just the cleaning crew around 9. But they didn't come up to this floor. They'd already cleaned earlier in the week. I walked back inside, studying the office. Michael's laptop sat on his desk, closed. Papers were neatly stacked. A framed photo of him hiking in the Rockies last summer sat on the credenza, one of his rare outdoor adventures, which he'd only done because it was a company retreat, and he couldn't avoid it. Everything looked normal. Too normal. I need his laptop, I said. The police took it. They returned it yesterday afternoon. It's locked in my office. Get it for me. Mr. Harrison, I don't think. Adrian. I faced him directly, using the tone I'd perfected over 3 decades of interrogating suspects. My son is dead. The police say it was an accident. You say it was an accident. But Michael wouldn't go near that balcony without a gun to his head. So either someone forced him out there, or you're all lying to me. Now, you were his partner, and supposedly his friend. Are you going to help me find out what really happened, or do I need to make this difficult? He held my gaze for a moment, then looked away. I'll get the laptop. But Mr. Harrison, sometimes accidents are just accidents. Maybe it's better to let it rest. Is that what you'd do if it was your family? He didn't answer. I spent the next 2 days going through Michael's laptop. Catherine arrived from Toronto, staying at a hotel near the airport. We met for dinner but didn't talk about our investigation, my investigation. She wanted to remember Michael as he was, not dig into the circumstances of his death. I understood that. She'd always been able to compartmentalize grief in a way I never could. The laptop yielded nothing at first. Work emails, project files, the usual business correspondence. Michael had been methodical and organized, just like I'd taught him. But on the third day, I found something. It was in a folder buried deep in his files, labeled simply Concerns. Inside were spreadsheets tracking company finances going back 18 months. Michael had highlighted certain transactions in red wire transfers, expense reports, vendor payments. In the margins, he'd written notes. This vendor doesn't exist. Payment duplicated. Who authorized this? I pulled up the company's official financial statements and compared them. The discrepancies were small individually, but over 18 months, they added up. Someone had been siphoning money from Quantum Solutions, about $2 million in total. And all the suspicious transactions had been approved by Adrian Westwood. I called Detective Sarah Chen at Vancouver PD. We'd worked together years ago when I was still with the RCMP, and she was a new constable. She'd moved up quickly. Now she was with Major Crime. Robert Harrison, she said when she answered. I heard about your son. I'm sorry. Thanks, Sarah. I need your help. If this is about Michael's death, you know I can't. Just hear me out. I explained what I'd found on the laptop. Someone was embezzling from the company, and Michael discovered it. $2 million, Sarah. That's serious, but it doesn't necessarily connect to his death. The investigation concluded it was accidental. Michael was terrified of heights. He would never go on that balcony voluntarily. People do strange things under stress. Maybe he was confronting his fear, trying to clear his head. Or maybe someone lured him out there and pushed him. There was a long silence. Robert, I know you're hurting, and I know your instincts are good, but sometimes we see murder where there's only tragedy. Will you at least look into the embezzlement? If Adrian was stealing from the company, and Michael found out right before a $95 million acquisition, that's motive. I'll make some calls. But Robert, don't do anything stupid. You're not a cop anymore. I promised I wouldn't. But we both knew I was lying. The partnership agreement reading happened on a Thursday afternoon, 6 days after Michael's death. The funeral had been Tuesday, a small service in Vancouver with cremation to follow. Catherine had already flown back to Toronto. She couldn't bear to stay. Patricia Chen's office was in a tower near Canada Place, overlooking the harbor. Adrian arrived 10 minutes late, dressed in a black suit that probably cost $5,000. He nodded at me briefly, then took a seat across the conference table. Patricia was efficient. We're here to review the Quantum Solutions partnership agreement in light of Michael Harrison's death. The relevant sections are... Before we start, Adrian interrupted, I want to confirm my understanding. Under our right of first refusal clause, Michael's shares come to me at book value. Is that correct? Patricia adjusted her glasses. Actually, no. The agreement was amended 3 years ago. Amended? I don't remember any amendment. She slid a document across the table. Both you and Michael signed this revision on March 15th, 3 years ago. It adds a succession clause that specifically addresses partner death during acquisition proceedings. Adrian picked up the document, his face darkening as he read. It says that if either partner dies within 90 days of executing an acquisition agreement, their shares transfer to designated beneficiaries at the full acquisition price, not book value. Patricia looked at me. Michael designated you as his beneficiary, Mr. Harrison. How much are we talking about? I asked, though I already knew. TechCore's offer values Quantum Solutions at $95 million. After investor payouts and employee equity, Michael's 48% stake is worth approximately $45 million. Adrian stood up abruptly. That's not possible. Michael never mentioned this clause. You signed it, Mr. Westwood. Your signature is authenticated here. I sign dozens of documents every month. I can't be expected to remember every detail from 3 years ago. I watched him carefully. His reaction wasn't just surprise, it was panic. Why does this upset you so much, Adrian? You're still getting your 45 million. He turned on me. Because it changes everything. Because he stopped himself. But too late. Because what? I stood slowly. Because if Michael's shares had come to you at book value instead of acquisition price, you'd have gotten both halves of the company for almost nothing? You'd have walked away with 90 million instead of 45? That's not what I meant. Then what did you mean? Patricia cleared her throat. Gentlemen, perhaps we should... How much debt are you in, Adrian? The question came out sharper than I'd intended. His face flushed. That's none of your business. I checked the public records. Your house in West Vancouver has 3 mortgages. Your car is leased. You've got credit card judgments against you. For a guy about to make $45 million, you're awfully desperate for cash. Get out, he said quietly. Why were you embezzling from the company? Patricia's head snapped toward Adrian. What? I said, get out. $2 million over 18 months. Michael found the evidence. That's why he died, isn't it? He confronted you, threatened to expose you before the acquisition closed, and you, Adrian lunged across the table. I was ready for it. I'd seen that look in his eyes. I sidestepped, and he crashed into the chair I'd been sitting in. 2 of Patricia's associates rushed in from the outer office, pulling him back. I'll destroy you, Adrian snarled at me. I'll tie up that acquisition in court for years. You'll never see a dollar. Try it, I said calmly. But first, you'll have to explain to the police why you were stealing from your own company and why my son died right after discovering it. He left, escorted by building security. Patricia sat down heavily. Mr. Harrison, I think you should contact the authorities. I already have. Detective Sarah Chen called me that evening. I looked into Adrian Westwood like you asked. You're right, he's drowning in debt. Gambling problem, apparently. Casinos in Richmond, online sports betting. He's into loan sharks for over $300,000. And the embezzlement? I brought in our financial crimes unit. They're going through Quantum Solutions books now. It's looking bad for him, Robert. If Michael confronted him about it, then Adrian had motive to kill him. Motive isn't proof. The medical examiner ruled accidental death. No signs of struggle, no defensive wounds. Toxicology came back clean. What about the security footage? Shows exactly what Adrian said. Michael entered the building alone at 7 p.m. No one else went up to the 20th floor. Then how did Adrian get up there? There must be another way. The only other access is the emergency stairwell, but it requires a key card. Michael's card was used at 7. No other cards accessed that floor until morning. I thought about that. Can you check who else has keycard access to that floor? I already did. Just Michael and Adrian, plus the building manager, but he was off duty that night. Adrian said he was at a breakfast meeting when Michael's body was found. He was. I verified it. Meeting started at 8 a.m. at a restaurant downtown. Security cameras confirm he was there. What about the night before? Where was Adrian between 7 and midnight? There was a pause. He claims he was home alone. No alibi. Sarah, he did this. I know he did. Then help me prove it. Because right now, all we've got is financial crimes. That'll put him away for a few years, but not for murder. I spent the next 3 days becoming an expert on the building where my son died. I reviewed the floor plans, studied the security system, interviewed the property management staff. On the 3rd day, I found what I was looking for. The building had 40 floors. The 20th floor, where Quantum Solutions was located, had emergency exits at both ends, one leading to the main stairwell, one to a secondary stairwell used primarily by maintenance. I'd assumed both required keycard access, but when I checked with the building manager, I learned something interesting. The main stairwell requires a keycard to enter from the office floors, he explained. But the secondary stairwell is different. You can always exit into it from the office floor's fire code, but you need a keycard to enter from the stairwell side. What if you're coming from a different floor? You can move freely between floors using the stairwells. You just can't access the office floors without a keycard. So, someone could enter the building on, say, the 19th floor, take the secondary stairwell up to 20, and exit onto the 20th floor without using a keycard? He frowned. Technically, yes, but they'd still need access to the 19th floor in the first place. I checked the building directory. The 19th floor housed 3 different companies. One of them was a law firm with 24-hour access for staff working late. I called Sarah. I need you to check something. Does Adrian have any connection to the law firm on the 19th floor? Client? Friend? Anyone? She called back an hour later. His divorce lawyer works there. Adrian was there 3 weeks ago for a consultation about his financial situation. Would he know the layout? The stairwell locations? He'd have walked right past the secondary stairwell to get to his lawyer's office. We'd found his access route. The next piece of the puzzle came from an unexpected source. The building's parking garage had cameras that time-stamped every vehicle entering and exiting. Adrian's Tesla had entered at 6:47 p.m., the night Michael died 13 minutes before Michael's keycard showed him entering the building. He was already there, Sarah said when she saw the footage. He parked, went up through the 19th floor, waited in the secondary stairwell, and when Michael arrived, he lured him out onto the balcony somehow and pushed him. But why would Michael go onto the balcony? You said he was terrified of heights. I thought about that. Then I remembered something from Michael's laptop, a photo he'd taken of a drone hovering outside his office window. He'd sent it to Adrian with a joking message. Your drone is spying on me. Adrian had a drone, I said. I saw it in his office. What if he flew it up to the balcony level, made it seem like it was malfunctioning or stuck? Michael might have stepped out to retrieve it, just for a second. Sarah's eyes widened. If we can prove he brought the drone that night. The drone was found in Adrian's home office 3 days later, along with detailed footage it had recorded. In his arrogance, Adrian had kept everything video of Michael stepping onto the balcony, reaching for the drone, Adrian appearing behind him. The audio wasn't clear, but you could see Michael turn, see the argument, see Adrian shove him. Adrian Westwood was arrested on a Friday morning as he left his house. He was charged with second-degree murder and financial fraud. The trial lasted 6 weeks. I attended every day, sitting in the front row, watching the man who killed my son try to explain away the evidence. The jury deliberated for 4 hours. Guilty on all counts. The judge gave him 20 years, minus credit for time served. You betrayed your partner, your friend, she said during sentencing, and when he discovered your crimes, rather than accept responsibility, you took his life. You showed no remorse, only calculation. The sentence is 20 years in a federal institution. Adrian looked at me as they led him away in handcuffs. His expression was empty now, all the arrogance drained away. He'd gambled everything and lost. After the trial, I returned to Qualicum Beach. The acquisition of Quantum Solutions went through TechCore was satisfied that the company itself was sound, despite its co-founders' crimes. The $45 million landed in my account on a Tuesday morning. I sat in my workshop, looking at the number on my phone screen. It felt obscene, profiting from my son's death. Catherine had gotten her share too. As Michael's mother, she called me crying, saying she couldn't touch it, couldn't spend it knowing how we'd gotten it. I understood, but I also knew what Michael would have wanted. I established the Michael Harrison Foundation the following month. Its mission, providing technology education and scholarships for underprivileged youth across Canada, with special focus on Indigenous communities. Michael had always been passionate about increasing diversity in tech. He'd volunteered at coding camps, mentored young programmers, believed that talent was everywhere, but opportunity wasn't. Now his legacy would live on through thousands of students who'd get chances they wouldn't have had otherwise. I kept enough money to live comfortably and donated the rest. Catherine did the same, funding a Women in Tech initiative in Toronto. Some evenings, I sit on my porch overlooking the strait, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of orange and purple, and I think about Michael, about the boy who fell from a treehouse and never got over his fear of heights, about the man who built something meaningful and was killed for it, about justice and whether it really means anything when the person you loved most is still gone. But then I think about the scholarship recipients, kids from small towns and reserves, kids who remind me of Michael with their bright eyes and brilliant ideas, and I know that death doesn't get the final word. Adrian took Michael's life, but he couldn't take Michael's impact on the world. That continues, growing stronger every year. They say revenge is a dish best served cold, but I learned something different through all of this. Revenge is empty, justice is necessary, but legacy, that's what endures. Michael's not here to see the foundation that bears his name. He won't know about the software engineer from Alert Bay who got her start through his scholarship, or the indigenous-led tech startup that received funding from his foundation. But somewhere, I think he knows. And I think he'd be proud. That's worth more than all the money in the world. That's worth more than revenge. That's what I tell myself on the hard days. Anyway, most of the time, I even believe it.